But this month, I don't think we need much introduction. This is our Senator, Rio Jaramillo. So for those of you in White Rock, it really doesn't matter, as you well know, because they work together for us. So we sort of get two people for our voices. So I've already warned Leo that lots of times we turn off because the broadband doesn't always like our picture up when we have video, and some people are eating and don't want to see it on the video. So there you go. So you want to go ahead and start, Leo?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Carolina. So just so you know, Carolina and I typically run into each other at farmers market in Los Alamos. And so I couldn't take my break off to go to the farmers market today, but it's nice to see her and all of you through a Zoom box, to see so many good friends, Mara O'Neill, David Irrelevant, so many friends from Los Alamos who are here, including even off the hill, Loida Martinez, who's joining us today. And so I'm wearing a handy dandy headset that I bought because I found out that during Zoom sessions in the pandemic, it was best if you could hear me through a headset. And I have the same issues in Española when if it's windy, got to turn off my camera or else it's no audio from me. So I can understand why some of you are shut off. Where others might be having lunch, I was looking at David's glass of orange juice and wishing I had one right now. So I wanted to take you back to January and fast forward you to where we are today and talk about what's happened in my journey in my second year as your senator, which I am still always so very thankful for. The residents of Los Alamos, it was largely because of your votes that helped me get to where I am today. And I will forever be thankful for your help and your support and your friendship. And so this past January, I participated in what I just talked about, my second regular legislative session. And let me tell you, it was still far from being normal as we continue to deal with COVID-19. Now, state revenues were at an all-time high with projections of a $1.9 billion increase. And so what we did see was the passage of the largest state budget ever, which totaled $8.46 billion. And so that huge budget passed. We were able to carry out a number of initiatives during that regular session. The New Mexico Senate, as most of you know, is composed of 42 members. 26 of us are Democrats and 15 identify or are Republican. And during the 30-day session, 642 bills were introduced, including resolutions and memorials. And out of that, 118 of them were passed, including some on which I introduced and co-sponsored. So I'd like to talk to you about some of those bills and tell you the role that I played in those and what I did. And so some of the bills that I carried, one of the major ones right here for Los Alamos National Laboratory was a tech readiness gross receipt tax credit that both Chris Chandler, Representative Chandler, and I, along with Representative Harper out of Sandia National Laboratories, ran. This bill then talks about tech small companies that are in the area or throughout New Mexico, and how can the laboratory partner with them and provide technical support. And so with that support, how can these institutions, both Sandia and Los Alamos, receive a tax credit? The bill passed unanimously through the Senate and I believe also through the House. Everybody saw that the laboratory's wealth of knowledge, mostly in the people employed at our laboratories, can be great assets for the state of New Mexico and for small business coming in. So that was a major win for both laboratories and a major win for small tech companies wanting to come into New Mexico or those that are already here. Now, I was proud as a former educator to co-sponsor increasing the salary for licensed teachers. I don't know if many of you know this, but when I taught in Belen, I did something that was called a 2+1 program. And so what that meant is if you had a bachelor's degree and wanted to teach, you enrolled into this program, which was a 2-year graduate program where one, you earned your master's degree, and then the second thing you got was your teaching license if you passed the exam. During that time, I made $28,000 a year. That was just 10 years ago. $28,000 is tough to live on. when you're finding yourself in graduate school and still wanting to go back and help support your family as much as you can. I just couldn't survive as an educator, even though I loved being in the classroom. Now, increasing the salary for licensed teachers means that we become the most competitive state in the Southwest. In our teacher pay, it was a 7% increase, which means our teachers really saw a bump, and so they deserve that. And I do hear from the governor that she plans to try to even increase that at a higher rate this coming session or the following session to ensure that we become one of the most competitive states in the nation when it comes to paying our teachers, and we can attract more educators into our classrooms throughout New Mexico. Another big bill for Northern New Mexicans, I think we talked about this before, but I'll just remind you, it was Senate Bill 141. That was the emergency filling of LP gas containers. What we noticed during a major cold snap in northern Rio Arriba County in the Chama area is a number of people can't afford to purchase their propane tanks. They heat their homes through propane, and that means they have to get propane from the supplier who provides them with the tank. Now, here's the issue. The licensing requirements did state at the time that the licensing gas company was the only company that could fill that leased tank. We started making phone calls to residents, knocking door to door to figure out what percentage of propane people had. We noticed that a large number of elderly residents were at 5% or lower, which meant maybe just 2 nights of staying warm, and then they were in danger. So working with the governor and with our licensing department, we said we would fix this. We then went in and changed what could happen through licensings with the bill, which will now allow any propane company, if the state, county, pueblo, or city declares an emergency, once that declaration is signed and in place, any propane company can come and fill these tanks. Now, most people ask, what about the liability with these propane companies that are filling a tank that's not leased to them? The companies all agreed that it would be far worse to lose a New Mexican who died from being cold than what it would be on the responsibility they would take on filling the tank. I thought it was really important as a Labby. I've always said that Los Alamos is my second home, right? 23 years at the laboratory. I'm here every single weekday. Was how do we then thank the laboratory scientists and workforce who were contributing to research during the pandemic and modeling that went to both the governor and the nation on where we were seeing trends happen. I then worked on a Senate memorial where I was proud to thank laboratory employees on the Senate floor for their contributions during the pandemic. This passed unanimously with the lieutenant governor asking if he could sign on. And there were nice comments of senators who stood up, including the lieutenant governor, to thank the employees of Los Alamos National Laboratory. And so that was great to see that their hard work during the pandemic did not go unnoticed, because it had a major impact not only in our community here, but throughout the state and the nation. And so I also worked on another Senate memorial. And so this was to work on really celebrating and recognizing New Mexico teachers who passed the National Board certification. What this is any teacher who passes this really tough exam can then teach in any state throughout the country. We had several from throughout New Mexico who passed this, and so it was nice to recognize fellow educators from across New Mexico who took this initiative on their own to pass this exam. And I worked this on the House side as well, so both the memorial was passed both in my chamber and in the House chamber. And so it was really, really good to see this happening. I was going to work on a bipartisan bill, which was for what we call the baby box. Baby boxes are a safe way for mothers to surrender infants if they can't take care of them. And so all of us can agree on this call. I can guarantee that all of us can agree that a woman's decision is her decision, and the government shouldn't step in to stop that, right? And so if your decision is forfeiting your baby because you can't take care of it, these baby boxes would allow you to turn in your baby or surrender your baby to a fire station where an alarm goes off, and within I want to say it's 10 minutes of the alarm sounding, somebody from that fire station would take that baby and ensure its safety and take the infant to the hospital. I was going to run a bill with a senator out of southern New Mexico, Senator Gonzalez. And so what was really nice is the governor called and said, senators, no need to run the bill. I'm going to fund a baby box in every county to ensure that at least one fire station in the largest area of that county has this baby box. We'll revisit in 3 years and see if they're being used, and if we need more, we'll then talk about what we can do. So it was really nice that the governor did provide the money. And so she came to Española and did a celebration where the first baby box in New Mexico was installed. Several years ago, we had a baby that was found in a dumpster in the valley. This was a major celebration for people in Española to know that this was yet another choice a woman could make in safely surrendering her baby. And so let's talk about some major wins for New Mexico. We talked about that 7% increase, but in addition to that, the lottery scholarship was preserved and fully funded for several more years. And at the same time, the Opportunity Scholarship Program was expanded to pay for tuition for non-traditional college students seeking bachelor's and associate's degrees, and this is what I'm proud of, college certificates. We're seeing throughout New Mexico, we're having a hard time finding craftsmen and women to come and become electricians, pipe fitters, welders. This would allow anybody who didn't think college was for them to earn their certificate in any one of those craft areas, or even barbering. And the state covers that through the Opportunity Scholarship. Now, I need to say that this was a bipartisan legislation that we voted on and saw the great impact that this could have on many New Mexicans, and I was happy to be part of that. The tax package was something that was major. I heard from so many people right here in Los Alamos County that talked about exempting Social Security income from taxation. Now, we did take our first step on doing this for seniors earning less than $100,000 annually, or married filers earning less than $150K, that we then took into account that they needed to have that exemption. Phases in a tax exemption for up to $30,000 in military retirement income kicked in. And we also went in to provide $1,000 in tax credit to nurses and giving a $250 tax rebate for New Mexicans earning up to $75,000 a year. We also established a new child tax credit. So those were major wins for New Mexicans. And so in the special session, I'm going to fast forward to when we came back together in April. People laugh at this freshman senator because not only have I had 2 regular sessions, I've been called into special session a couple of times. So I'm becoming pretty used to being on that Senate floor and working with my colleagues. So in April of 2022, with the inflation and gas prices on the rise, the governor called that special session to provide a $338.7 million in payments this fiscal year to New Mexicans. And we passed that junior bill that she had previously vetoed. And so we passed the bill and sent a rebate of payments of $500 for single filers and $1,000 for married couples in New Mexico. And those rebates were to help combat what we were seeing in rising prices in the economy. And we distributed those in 2 payments that crossed state fiscal years. So that really helps some New Mexicans out. And so I want to talk about some fun stuff that's been happening with me in Los Alamos County. And so I don't know if you realized, if you showed up to Nutcracker on the Hill, I was Mother Ginger for 2 of those nights. Giant dress, danced with so many kids who were so happy to see me, and instead of calling me Leo or Senator Jaramillo, would run up to me and hug my legs and say, Mother Ginger. And so I had so much fun with these kids, with these dancers, and I look forward to working with them again. Came out to see some Los Alamos softball and was asked to throw out the first pitch. And so to congratulate those young ladies on an amazing season that they had. They went into the state tournament, ultimately losing in the second round, but being able to celebrate with them and throw out that pitch was amazing. I was happy to see Mara O'Neill at the game, who was able to capture a picture of me, and I made it to home plate. One of the biggest and most exciting things that happened to me with teenagers in Los Alamos is honoring the young men and women of the Project Y Robotics team. This team represented New Mexico and Texas, where they not only fared well, they placed well. They placed fourth in the world. And so I wanted to make sure that the books would celebrate these young men and women and their mentors. So I had a state Senate resolution written up for them. And so these teens took with them a New Mexico flag, a New Mexico state flag with them. There's pictures of them in Texas with this flag. I took that flag from them and made sure that it was flown over the state capitol. A letter was sent to them thanking them for what they did, and told them the date that their flag was raised over the state capitol, and reminded them of how much pride they brought to the state of New Mexico, and not only to their community. As a member of the LGBTQ plus community, you might have seen me dancing at Gay Pride Los Alamos. Even when I was challenged on stage, that they heard I was a cheerleader, if I would do some choreography, I wasn't afraid to dance. So I danced a while on that stage in 8 count, and was even asked if I'd join the cabaret the next time it comes around. And at that event, it was so nice to come out of COVID, because I didn't get to meet so many people in Los Alamos during the time I ran my campaign because of COVID. It was nice to meet the people from the Art Center, Sharon Allen of the African Library Project, the women who are part of the Los Alamos Roller Derby. There's so many amazing people that I finally got to meet in person and either high five or hug. Although White Rock isn't my area, you can't hide my Chamisa Elementary cheetah pride. I became a cheetah reader. And so for the past 20 years, cheetah readers have been reading throughout the summer. They've been engaging students to ensure that they continue to read. I got to share with students what my favorite book was as a child, which happened to be The Wizard of Oz. And I told them there's still 2 great lessons learned from that, right? Anything you think you're missing might be in your backyard, and there's no place like home. I attended Los Alamos High School graduation, where I got to high five and congratulate so many students who are going to do some major great things. And so excited to even see that some of those Project Y students walked across that stage, including a young woman, Gwyneth Lyons, who says one day she will be the first president of the United States. I told her I can't wait to cast my vote for her and work on her campaign. I attended the UNM Los Alamos graduation with some of you. After that graduation, I took it upon myself. I thought, I want to serve the cake to these students instead of having the staff do it, because I thought, what an amazing accomplishment. And so served cake to so many students and took selfies with them. You'll see me running around at farmers market, where I can hear what the county is doing, whether it's about compost or what they're doing with any one of their programs that's out. I've met some student interns who have been here, was able to attend the Sala announcement with Alan Zanise and Eric Burnside, and talking about the excitement building and what the vision is of Sala. So I joked as the Labby, David, you're gonna laugh. I thought, what is Sala's acronym for? And I thought, well, so awesome Los Alamos must be exactly what it is. But then I realized Sala is a place where we all come together. So it's a living room. Here's some upcoming events I have that are going to be taking place right here. Oh, one last thing. I was able to join the law enforcement in Los Alamos for the torch run, which brings awareness to Special Olympics. The Olympians challenged me to run with them next year. So I've put myself in check and thought that I will take you up on that challenge to run with you next year. So what I'm going to do right now is I've started walking and running. So that way, and I'm down 26 pounds, by the way, from it. I'm going to continue going, and I'm going to run with my Los Alamos Special Olympians and LAPD next year. Although I might not be able to run the full race, I'm going to run a leg with them and show my support in running. So I took that very serious. Upcoming events is I've been asked to be the leadership keynote speaker at Leadership Los Alamos. It was really nice to hear that attendees and those that are involved like to see my leadership style in action, and asked if I would come and speak about how I then lead in my community. I'll be hosting a Los Alamos cheer camp for the varsity cheer team up here. So you can't hide my topper pride. I'll be working with Coach on working on a 2-day camp. I'll be meeting with the county next week and doing a tour of Los Alamos National Laboratory with Representative Chandler. And then last year, right before things started to spike with COVID, I was going to do firefighter for a day. And I'm going to do that again. It's going to be coming up. So you might want to come out and hang out and do that with us. And just, more than just work, it's about connecting with community. In connecting in these events, I hear about issues. And maybe, some of you, maybe we can really have lunch one day. One major issue I heard up here in Los Alamos from a parent at one of these events is, I'm really concerned that my student doesn't have a cafeteria in his elementary. And what about those students that may need this cafeteria? Or what do we do about feeding our students? So I'd love to sit with you one day and see maybe what your history is about that and what you've heard. I've heard about other residents in Los Alamos who are thinking about what opportunities are there for small business, not tax credits, but how can we expand and grow? And so at these events, it's more than fun. It's really having a pulse on the community and hearing what's happening, hearing concerns, and being able to either connect the dots or try to find people who can help me find solutions. Let's talk a little bit about more fun. Carol Ann, I think you're gonna love this. I was the governor's prom date for the prom that she hosted at the governor's mansion, and where we hosted the students from Mona High School who couldn't have a prom due to the fire, and their high school gymnasium was being used as the station area for firefighters and the command station for every personnel, including the Red Cross that was working the fire. So got to work with the governor and dance. And so when I text her and said, do you need any help with prom? She said, do you want to come? I said, is this your way of asking me to prom, Governor? So I don't think very many people can say that the governor has asked them to prom, but I can. And so this week, Friday, I'll be on the set with actress Emma Stone in Española. And so I'll be sitting with her, and I have an ask from her. I'm going to ask if she would leave her legacy on what she's done, not only what she's doing in Española and bringing jobs on site, but if she'll team with me on fighting hunger in and around the Española Valley, whether it be a one-time donation or if she'll be a partner with me to ensure that her name will live on in helping the students in Española Public Schools who are facing hunger. I threw up my hands. It was a Beatle with the NDI dance group with fourth graders of Sombrio Elementary, that's in Santa Fe County, but in Española, danced with some NDI students with, believe it or not, a young student who told me, I will become the senator. And she's in fourth grade. I told her, you absolutely will, because in fourth grade is when I knew I would run for office. And she said, I'm going to make so much money, Senator. I said, well, I hate to burst your bubble, but we do this for free. And so, you're really going to like hearing this, Cynthia. These kids, when I told them I do this for free and I really just want to see what's best for my community, they dug into their backpacks and tried to find anything that they could give me, whether it was a paper star that they made, a sticker that they found. And this one kid searched about 3 times through his entire backpack and he found his $1 bill, gave me that dollar with so much pride. And so this is one of those students who struggles within our community financially. And to know that that kid would give me his last dollar meant so much. And so I said, as senator, I can do something, and so I can give money back. And so I declared that day, Sombrio Day, and gave the dollar back to the student. I hosted a cheer camp for McCurdy High School, did 2 days with them. They couldn't afford a camp. What's nice is they asked the governor to help pitch in for some uniforms by buying some raffle tickets, which she did. I coached the Española Valley High School cheer team when their coach lost her sister to illness. I stepped in and was allowed by the New Mexico Activities Association to serve as cheer coach. And here's my last cool story is meeting President Biden. So meeting President Biden, I intercepted him. I called it the Española Shuffle. So his security guards had told me that there was no way that I could speak to the president, even though I was next in line. I eyed the door. I thought he was going to exit. So I Española shuffled my way through everybody who was waiting for him and intercepted him. And I said, President Biden, I'm Senator Leo Jaramillo of Senate District 5. I represent a diverse district, which is Los Alamos, where discoveries are made, and the Española Valley, the lowrider capital of the world. And he said, turn that camera around, Senator, let's take a selfie. We took a selfie, but when he was walking out, he stopped and turned around and he said, Los Alamos plays a major role in national security. And I yelled back, every day. And he walked out. So it was nice to know that he knew exactly who our community is and what we provide to this nation. So in closing, before I take questions, we saw that Roe Wade decision that took place. That is, so many people on this call have fought years to ensure that women's rights are protected. Women's rights are human rights. We need to make sure that we continue to vote for our Democratic colleagues to ensure that we protect women's rights. Women's rights are at threat. Members of the LGBT community rights could be threatened next. We need to stand up for human rights because that's the right thing to do. And before I leave, I want to thank the League of Women's Voters Los Alamos for all that you do for our community. And so I like to brag and say you're one of the best organized organizations that I know. I talk to people in the Senate about displays that you bring into the community for us to see. I talk about meetings that you have, and I talk about your commitment to ensuring that our voices are heard and that voices are kept through voting. Thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you for being supporters and allies, and I look forward to continuing to work with you. Oh, Carol, you're on mute.
Good. And then you didn't hear me say thank you.
That's okay.
I muted you because the dog's barking and I don't know, whatever. But anyway, I'm going to see, really, you can either put, if you have a question for Leo or comment, you can put it in the chat and I will read it, or you can raise your hand and I can try to see you. I don't know if I'm seeing everybody here. So, or just open up, unmute and talk. How's that?
Now we can have a conversation.
Yeah. So anybody have anything?
So there's two. I saw that Mara had her hand up and David had his hand up.
So Mara's our reporter. She does the Los Alamos reporter. So we're going to let Mara go first. Okay.
Good afternoon, Senator. I don't know if the League of Women Voters realizes how much I keep tabs on you all the time. So whenever you're at events up here, I usually try and be there to watch you in action. But the other side of that is that I also keep track of what you do in the rest of your district, because it's hard to imagine with the list that you just gave of the things that you've been involved with in this community, that you are equally involved in every other community in your district. And so there were a couple of things that I thought people might be interested to hear a little bit about. And one was, with the recovery from the COVID pandemic in areas of your district like Española, are the ARPA funds helping the small businesses? What is the outlook like? That's the first one. And the second one is, I know you were involved when the situation arose in Chama, where the people didn't have water, and that you were up there helping with that. And also the acequias, you're very active with the acequias in your district. And so I was wondering if you could touch on a couple of those so people can hear a little bit about your region, your district, other district activities besides what you do in Los Alamos.
Absolutely. And for those of you who might not know, Senate District 5 encompasses a majority of Rio Arriba County, Los Alamos proper. I share Los Alamos County with Senator Gonzalez of Taos. I then have a sliver of Sandoval County and some of northern Santa Fe County. So it's a big district, it's a diverse district, and ARPA funds are helping. But Mara, although ARPA funds are helping, here's the number one issue small businesses are encountering, are people wanting to work. And so although they are ready to be up and running and provide services in our communities, ARPA funds have helped, but they're having a hard time finding a workforce to come in. And so there's a couple of small businesses, for example, within the Española Valley say they can't open their restaurants with consistent business hours because they don't have a consistent workforce. And so that's becoming the major issue, is finding people to fill these empty slots. But ARPA funds did help. And so you asked about the water crisis in Chama. For those of you who don't know, Chama lost something like, I want to say 200 gallons of water one night. The next night, their tank was half gone. They didn't know what was happening. They knew it had to be a major leak, but didn't know where to search for that leak. The reserve tank was filled with a lot of mud and silt because a monsoon rain had hit. So it wasn't fast enough for them to clean the water. And then two, even if it was clean, they couldn't pass it through because of that major leak that they had identified. So Chama did call. If you haven't heard, during redistricting, I was removed from Chama. So there's a new senator who's going to be in that area. He and I worked together. I called him once Chama was on the phone with me, worked with the governor's office, who was already well aware of what was happening, and came up with a plan on water that would be trucked in. The state quickly brought in an expert, a water engineer, who was going to help search for the leak. The leak was identified and it was stopped. And so the good news is water was restored, but the bad news is that took 1 week. Hey, Mara, I have to share this with you because you're gonna like this. One of the residents of Chama said there were 2 travesties that happened in Chama. One, he turned on his faucet on a Monday, no water came out. He said the second travesty is we've lost Senator Jaramillo, who was somebody who is in the community and comes to sit just with us at some days just to have lunch. And so I feel connected to every community, including right here in Los Alamos. I tell everybody it's my second home, but I don't think most elected officials know more in like urban areas what it means to connect with people and sit and just talk and listen, right? It doesn't always have to be about policy, but about connecting. And so that's what made Village Councilor Gallegos very comfortable to call me very early in the morning about the issue, because connection had been made and he knew that I would work on trying to help. And then your third question was acequias. Do all of you know who La Llorona is? I think that you do, the woman that walks across every acequia searching for children. She's a ghost and a scary woman that we've heard of in New Mexico history. Now I tease and laugh and say that La Llorona is my aunt, everyone, so I need to protect acequias. But water truly is life. And so working on ensuring that waters continue to flow, with junior funds, Mara was able to help the Santa Cruz Irrigation Division, which has more than 24 small ditches that run off of it, or acequias, on working on a study. What are we going to do with climate change and how do we address it when it's acequias, when that water is flowing at the surface level? And we're talking about temperatures rising and the evaporation of that water. What can we do to address these issues, and how can we team with our neighboring pueblos to ensure that water continues to flow from the Santa Cruz Dam all the way down into the Valley of the Pueblos? So a study will be done with some of that junior money that was given to them. Some of them say, thank you for giving me money, Senator, on this project, but the truth is it's all of your money. Money goes back because you're taxpayers into your community. Some major ones, just so you know, money that came back to Los Alamos is the county council identified they needed help with a road project on New Mexico 4. The majority of money that the county requested from us, in both Representative Chandler and I, went to that project. In addition, I then was proud to help support 2 initiatives with UNM Los Alamos to help them with their infrastructure. And so those are 2 major projects that got funding in this county. And I think I addressed your 3 questions, Mara.
I'm going to have David, and then I'll read you something from the chat by Eduardo. So David, you're on. You're muted, however.
Okay, well, thank you, Senator Jaramillo, for being here. These are more comments than questions, but I appreciate that not only are you very knowledgeable about Los Alamos and you kind of straddle a very broad range of geographic areas, but I also just personally, I really appreciate that both you're willing to learn more, you have that humility that you're always willing to know more about the community, and I think that's displayed in your reaching out and conversations. But I also appreciate it. We've had a couple of conversations about how to assist in regional efforts, and I really appreciate your ability to kind of bridge multiple communities and priorities and so forth. And it's one of those things that maybe the general public may not have an appreciation for that role that you play, that you're kind of a goodwill ambassador among different communities. And so I just wanted to share that and say that I appreciate that. And I'm glad that you've highlighted a lot of the more financial ways that you've helped all our communities, but there are other things that I think are just as valuable, and I appreciate those as well. So anyway, I want to take that opportunity to thank you for that.
Thank you, my friend. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
And we still need to do that Rio Arriba tour.
Yeah, so most of you don't know, David and I worked together on the Lanel coalition of communities that worked on how do we do cleanup from those legacy projects at the laboratory, and how do we keep all of our northern communities safe, right, when it comes to cleanup or what's happening at the laboratory. And so one day I told him about this lavender farm we have in Rio Arriba County and how they have a lavender day. And we had made a plan that we were going to do. I was going to take him on a road trip through Rio Arriba County so that he could see everything we have to offer north of Española, ending back at Española for lunch, and then the pandemic hit. So we're still trying to get together so we can do a double day and we can do a tour of Rio Arriba so I can show him what we have to offer.
Great.
Hey,
So
we'll
have to do that.
We will.
Okay, and I'm going to go to this other question, Leo. What are your thoughts on ranked choice voting and an open primaries?
Oh, I really like this question for two reasons. Believe it or not, Senator Katie Duhigg said she wanted to sit with me in regards to ranked choice voting. Senator Duhigg worked as the clerk for the city of Albuquerque for a number of years. And so, I'm not too up to speed on ranked choice voting, other than I know the very basics of it, on how you then go through and find out who the winner would be. But Eduardo, I am more than happy to hear your thoughts on ranked choice voting before I meet with Senator Duhigg. In case you have any questions that I can take to her when we talk about it, I'd be happy to do that. So I don't know if you have my phone number. You can send me a text message. I'd love to sit with you and find out more from you. You can teach me some stuff before I meet with Senator Duhigg. If you have a pen, I'm gonna say it out loud, and then I'll also write it in the chat. But my phone number is 505-620-0800. The best way to reach me, Eduardo, is through text message. I don't know why sometimes people say they left me a message and then 5 days later I get that voicemail. But text messages, for some reason in my Adobe Casita, come through immediately, and we can set up either a time where we can come and have lunch here in Los Alamos. You can help me on my mission on running that torch where we could walk around the pond, get some laps in. Will you tell me your thoughts on ranked choice voting? And then open primaries, I think, is something that would do well for most people, right? Especially when you start thinking about people like independents who say they wish they had a voice in the primary. I believe open primaries would be good too, but I would love to chat with you more on what your thoughts are. So please reach out to me, Eduardo, and let's get together. I want to hear from you.
Thank you. I'll be in touch. Appreciate
Gracias.
it.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm looking Rebecca. Why see it says Rebecca Shanklin. You never go by Rebecca. So it's Becky Shanklin.
Hello, Becky.
Go ahead.
Hi. No, I don't know. I think I have a split personality because my father liked Rebecca, my mother liked Becky, and she won. But now through email, where I turned into Rebecca, my father's back with me. So anyway, I love them both, so that's okay. So thank you so much for all the discussion you've had about what you did with the community. And as a former teacher, I love what you're doing with teaching. I'm so glad teachers are going to get paid a little bit more. It's really important because if you look at what makes the most difference. It's starting with childcare and then going on to teaching. That's how you change a society and make, well, anyway, that's my soapbox. Now,
Thank you, Rebecca.
what my question
Sure.
is I wonder if you could say something about the constitutional amendment that's coming up for independent redistricting commission. And then I have another question, which is a much broader one. Climate change is the huge elephant in the room that faces the whole world, and nobody's doing anything significant enough about it. So what do you think we should be pushing locally or in the state to address that? Because we're never going to change the whole world, but we got to start at home. So
Yeah, we can start with
constitutional
that.
amendment and climate change, those are my questions.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So first, I really think that committees are important when it comes to redistricting, right? So people can then have a voice through this committee on what they think those boundaries should look like. For example, if you think about, remember I gave you that example about Chama being said that they lost their senator. If they could have been part of a committee to talk about why they thought it would be important to keep me there, and why they thought it would be really important to maybe draw my district out of taking out that sliver of Sandoval County and keeping me more close and whole with Rio Arriba and Los Alamos, those discussions would be heard by a committee and it would have more of an impact. When you don't have a committee, I'm afraid that lines are drawn just to benefit those who are sitting in office, right? So right now as a new senator, although I was really sad to lose Chama, I didn't really have any requests other than I had wanted White Rock to come in, because I just thought it might be, I thought it was ridiculous that a small county had 2 senators, but then later found out, well, maybe it's not too bad that they have 2 voices in the Senate who can go and bat for the small county. But I think that having people serve on a committee, hear the concerns of the communities that are going to be affected is something that should be done, right? Shouldn't just be done by a group of people behind closed doors, because I think committees have more transparency and are more reflective of the needs and wants of the community because they hear from them. Now, when it comes to climate,
Wait just a second. So just say, what's the constitutional amendment, the number, just so we can make people vote for it.
I will have to email the League of Women's Voters, because off the top of my head, I don't remember the number. And then I'll find some verbiage that they can attach to that so that they know what the impact is, if you don't mind.
We want to,
because I'd hate to give you the wrong number and then you vote for the wrong thing. And so then when we talk about climate change, each of us have a responsibility when it comes to climate change. What can we do? So if you look at acequias, are looking at what can they do about about surface water evaporation. What can we do within our communities, and how can we talk to our local governments on supporting it? Now, we do have that initiative that the governor wants of 2030 on trying to transition from oil and gas and working on renewable energy. Sometimes that seems like that might be a stumbling block because 2030 is almost here. But I think that the most important thing we should be doing is having these conversations with local government. What can local government propose to those in the state offices on what can be done? So what could, for example, the County Council of Los Alamos come up with that they can definitely execute with the constituents right here in Los Alamos County? And if they need help, how then can myself or Representative State Chandler work on securing funds or finding ways to get these initiatives out? And if we don't have the answer, how then can we tap into Congresswoman Teresa Lecher Fernandez and Senator Ben Ray Lujan, and how then can you help us at a federal level? I think that ideas and brainstorms need to come from communities. Now, Rebecca, I hear from so many old school New Mexicans who say, hey, so many people think that I'm not an environmentalist because I've been here for 12 generations, but the truth is I'm still doing techniques when it comes to compost that my grandpa taught me, or I'm still working on, I turn off every light and unplug everything and work on that little windmill that's out in the farm. I think some stuff's already being done, but I think collectively the community needs to come together with local government, whether it's county or in some cases municipality, to see what can really be done in those areas and how can we gain the support of those at the state and federal level.
Thank you.
Listen, Rebecca, I think all of us have a bright personality in this room, that all of us together could be enough solar power to generate all of this county.
Bravo.
Does anyone else have on? I have a lot of things to ask, but I'm going to wait until the end and be polite. So Jody Benson up here in my left-hand corner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Senator. I've been on the phone instead of on Zoom, so I hope this Zoom lasts. I don't know if it will or not. I'm not, so because I was not able to be on Zoom or hear the whole talk, your whole presentation, I'm not sure you talked about the issue of long-term care. Have you talked about that yet?
I didn't. I focused mostly on bills that were passed and talked about
Yeah.
how I have an ear in the community and what's happening. So when you're talking about long-term care, you're talking about senior living?
Yes, particularly senior living, but long-term care for everybody. Nursing homes have more than just old people in them. They have a lot of people who need long-term care. And all over New Mexico, primarily because of the COVID issues, our long-term care facilities need huge support. And we have 3 severe problems. And you mentioned finding people to work. That's one of them. Because we're not finding people to work, even though at Aspen Ridge and Sombrio, we pay a good wage and give benefits, we can't find people to work. And therefore we have to hire agency people, which can cost about 3 times or more, sometimes 5 to 7 times more than we pay, including with their benefits, our own staff. And then we don't get the care because these agency people don't know our residents. And then we are worried we're not receiving our full bed tax. That was a great idea. And this was the governor's idea about the bed tax. But I'm not sure that our facility up here, Sombrio and Aspen Ridge, have received any of or all of that funding. So I'm telling you, Española closed, and we need some help up here too. And then the third issue is lawsuits, and lawsuits is a really delicate one, especially for Democrats. They don't like to cap tort reforms. They don't like to cap lawsuits against any kind of healthcare facilities, but there are good guys here in the health facilities also. And we have heard from Chris Chandler that if we don't police ourselves, then we have to have the lawyers do it. If the facilities don't regulate ourselves, the facilities, then the lawyers do it for us. But here in New Mexico, there's no cap, and every single long-term care facility is being sued. And predatory lawyers from all over the country search the obituaries and for people who have died, and then troll the survivors. So there are a lot of problems with long-term care that you could help us with, that can be helped by some regulations. So again, I'm Jody Benson, and
Hey,
here
Jody,
those.
you should do the same with getting my number that's in the chat, and lets you and I sort of talk more, right? Because help me find out more. But let me tell you one thing that Rio Arriba County is thinking of doing that I think if other counties modeled after it, it would be a fabulous idea. Funding would be hard, but we do have a governor who worked with aging long-term services and seniors who would see the importance of this. As we see a large number of our population reaching the age where they might want to go into, I'm not going to say a nursing home, but senior living. Española thought about with Rio Arriba doing a senior living community where this isn't assisted living, but what it does is it moves people into a centralized area that's close to, in this case, is a El Centro, which is a clinic that has both a physician and a dentist in walking distance. They then thought that at the center of that campus, they would then be able to build their nursing home. The nursing home in Española closed with a non-compete clause, This then would keep our residents together, those who might want to even volunteer, who are doing senior living, who might want to go in and serve as a companion in the nursing home, right? Because what we do know is seniors, when they leave their communities, feel a disconnect and don't do as well as those who stay within their community. Now, seniors who have said they have retired and wish they had something to do have started working on what's called the companion or the senior buddy program in Rio Arriba County. What that means is any senior who wants to go and pick up, I like to call them the golden girls, right? So in this instance, if a senior wants to pick up my mom and take her shopping for the few groceries she needs, or wants to come and hang out with my mom for a while and move a chair that my mom can't move, these companions can do that. So if we have this campus where we have seniors living around, who I'm going to call my golden girls, who are in the nursing home, it becomes a community taking care of each other, and it's in a safe place that's close to a physician. If Rio Arriba County is successful in this plan, and then other counties can model that, I think that would be a major win. I'm definitely going to look into why you haven't received all of your bed tax. That's interesting to me that that didn't happen. And so I'm going to reach out to the DFA. So let me reach out to finance and find out what might be slowing it down, or if there's anything I can do to help. And then the last, when we talk about tort claims, I have heard about lawyers who do circle around just waiting to see where they can pounce, right? Let's talk more offline on that. I want to find out more about what Representative Chandler told you, but more about what your concerns are and what you think are solutions to the issue.
Oh, thank you. That would be very good. So we can send you an invitation to join us by Zoom, possibly.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hey, and Jody, the best way to do it is if it's during the work week, if we can do it during lunch, so I can take my lunch hour at that time. But any time in the evening, just reach out to me and we'll work on a date and time that works.
Okay. There's a board meeting, Sombrio, Aspen Ridge is Lark, and we're nonprofit. We're having a board meeting Monday, but that's probably too soon. I'll ask
What time on Monday?
4, but we could call you at 5 or so.
5 o'clock on Monday would work for me.
Okay, let me have the president get in touch with you.
Sounds good to me.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you.
No problem.
I had a couple comments, unless anyone else wants to talk first. Anybody? No. Okay. So, this is just a comment. So when we are always saying we want to transition, and I think that's the word that we use, away from gas and oil, I think people think, wow, there won't be any gas or oil. And that can't possibly be true, because people have cars and they don't have electric cars. I don't have an electric car. I have gas heating in my house, or water heaters, whatever those things are. It's not like we're never going to have any. We're just going to try to, it's more, I think the way they say that and the way that people, some people want to interpret that is as we're just not going to have any anymore. We're just going to never have any oil, and there's not going to be any gas, which is not true. It's just that we're trying to, it's like this, and we just kind of want to make it more like this, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So it's not just one day saying where there's no more fuel at the gas station, right? That all pumps are closed, right. But it's a smooth transition. And what can we do to reduce our carbon footprint? So what can we do to become more green so that we can protect Mother Earth, right? And just like Rebecca said, what can we all do to pitch in to make sure that we're working at going green? And it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to have to be that transition. It's going to have to be what's going to work for each community, because what might work in Los Alamos might not work in Chama, and what might work in Chama won't work in Española. And here's an example. When I met with the Chama school board, the board president said, Senator, solar sounds amazing. And they talk about putting solar panels on top of our schools. They said, but they don't understand that in Chama, we sometimes get more than a foot of snow, and you can't just stand on those solar powers. The pressure of that snow would crack those panels. He's like, there's a lot that needs to be thought of when we start thinking about solar, and it's not just a one shop fixes everything, right? So you're right, Carol, it would have to be a transition. And how do we then move over and make green the predominant but not completely eliminating what we still need, right?
Well, it's kind of one of those, you know, I've said this to several people on this Zoom, but having been in special education for 39 years, I'm able to like say like, well, so what does that mean? Because what people think is like, we're just going to close down all the oil and all the gas, and that's why they're fighting. That's why they're giving probably one party far more money than another party, because they'll stand up for their rights. But we're also having to look at reality, that we're not talking about shutting down everything. It's just going to be that. And another thing, this is a big thing apparently across the country, but also in Los Alamos, is, and I don't know, I was going to try to look this up, but pharmacists. I never even thought about it until we have this issue in Los Alamos, and I'm sure everywhere else, not being able to get prescriptions, or having to wait an hour or something in line, or having to go inside. For example, and I don't have COVID, thank goodness. But if I had COVID and it was just diagnosed and I wanted to go get the pills, I'd have to stand in line inside Smith's to get that. And that concerns me on the level of, not that I just have to stand, but that I could be transmitting that to any other people who I would have a mask on, but they might not. So I don't know if there's some program that's quicker that can fulfill that need as
Hey,
well as
Carolyn?
pay them well.
Carolyn, it's Julie.
Hi, Julie.
I
Yeah.
just want to say I got COVID standing in line at Smith's. I know
Oh,
it
no.
for a fact. It was the only interaction I had had because I was going on vacation. So I was extremely careful for 2 weeks and I got it. I had a mask on chatting with the lady ahead of me who also had a mask on. But when she got to the counter was getting COVID pills, she should not have been out. So.
Right. And you couldn't, and they didn't have the drive up, which was
Correct, which is where I would have gone in the first place. I was there for routine medication, yeah. For
No, that's
vacation.
a very good point. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that up when we go to interim committee, right? So I'll reach out to Senator Ortiz-Pino, which this is definitely his field house, see if he's thought of anything that could be done. And then I'll keep you posted, but you're right, that would be hard. But Carol Ann, all you'd have to do is call me. I would have picked them up, rang your doorbell and left them at your doorstep.
Yeah. Well,
Not
that's
very
what
many,
someone
not very
said.
many people have someone who can do that, right? When we think about people who might be alone, who don't have a friend to dial and make sure that they can get something for them, that becomes a major issue. It's an issue now, but it's more of an issue when you don't have somebody who can help you out. Let me reach out to Senator Ortiz-Pino and see if his interim committee has even thought about anything that could address this issue.
And I will say, and I see that it's 1 o'clock, but you know, it's things that people don't think about until it's there. And then you think about it. All during COVID, I haven't been in Smith's for years. And I get the groceries delivered outside. They put them in my car. I go through the mail, through the window to get prescriptions. So it never even occurred to me until it's been brought up, as Julie was saying, that people are in line. And that's totally frightening that you got COVID from wearing a mask and this other person.
Yes, that is scary.
So I don't know the answer to that. I mean,
Well, I'll reach out to Senator Ortiz-Pino. His interim committee works on issues, anything medical related, and I'll see if it's something they've discussed and what would happen. Now, before we leave, Carolyn, I have to share just one last story. I'm so excited that my great nieces are moving back from Colorado Springs. Their dad, my nephew, was stationed in several different states. He's decided not to re-enlist, and they told him they wish that they lived closer to their grandparents and family. One's going to be in 10th grade, the other in 8th. He applied at the laboratory and within 3 weeks got a call back that he had a job offer. My great nieces and my niece will be moving to White Rock on Sunday, and they're looking forward to being part of Topper Pride. My niece was able to, the oldest was able to talk to the vice superintendent about the gifted program she's in Colorado Springs. Seems like the one here is comparable. They're excited about 2 things. 1, academics, and 2, that the girls soccer team and the girls track team do so amazingly well. They're so excited to be become toppers and play soccer and run for topper track. So now not only will you see me throughout the first pitch, Carol Ann, you're going to see me at soccer games and at track and field events cheering on the Romero sisters.
Well, that's great. And I will tell you before I say goodbye, is that in 1995, my daughter graduated, and the girls track team of which she was a part won the state meet for the first time in the history of Los Alamos.
Wow. So she started it because now it's a tradition. Now they're the three-peat state champions. And so hopefully they bring back that blue trophy for the years to come. But thank you for sharing that. Everyone, thank you so much for your support. League of Women Voters, you are amazing. I am so thankful not only to call you my friends, but my allies. And I'm here for you whenever you need me. And I might not always have the answer, like I didn't for Eduardo or Jody, but I am always willing to listen, to learn, and try to seek an answer for all of us, or try to work on how I can best support your ideas. Thank you so much. It's been an honor and a privilege serving you, not only on the Senate floor, but out of the Senate floor, because I proudly say when I'm Senate District 5, that I represent not only the hometown that I was born and raised in, but Los Alamos, which has welcomed me with open arms as a high school co-op student, my second home, where my friends are, friends that I consider family, and I am so proud to represent you.
And we are happy to have someone who actually comes to Los Alamos.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you.
Way possible. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
we'll see you later.